Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. We have another midweek match day to enjoy and to look back on with Craig Burley, Shaka Hislop and myself, Kay Murray. We're going to start at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium where Spurs took on Manchester United. So 2-2 it finishes. It was a game of two halves, to use the old football cliche. It's fair to say both goals for Manchester United coming in the first half, both for Spurs coming in the second half. This is how things looking in the table right now. United fourth on 60 points, 6 clear of Spurs behind them, and Villa in 6th. They face Villa next at Old Trafford. Let's welcome in Frank Leboeuf and Julien Laurens to talk more about this game. Was it a bit of a missed opportunity tonight for Manchester United?
Yes. I'm trying to remember all the chances in the first half, but I feel that they should have gone in at even more than 2-0. Yes, Spurs had the odd moment going forward themselves. I'm thinking about Perisic. Might have been one other. But United really dominated, particularly in the middle of the park. I really enjoyed watching Fernandes and Christian Eriksen just spray the ball around. Eriksen's vision, Rashford over the top. Sancho took his goal really well. Was a bit sloppy at other times in the game. But, I mean, we've sat here for months and months and months, and it doesn't seem to matter who's manager of Tottenham Hotspur. They just don't seem to turn up in a game until the second half. And until they're 1-0 or 2-0 down, and that was the case, and they got a bit of urgency, and they pressed a bit higher, and they got a few more bodies into the box, because in the first half there was a couple of balls from Tottenham's perspective that were fired across the 6-yard box, and there was 2, maybe 3 white jerseys in the box, and everybody else was outside, so it was very negative. But a good response. But from United's perspective, I think they'll be disappointed that they lost control of that match. I thought Luke Shaw, by the way, going in and playing centre-half again was excellent, and I think he has really rejuvenated his career in the last sort of 18 months or so. I thought him going in there and playing covered the ground brilliantly, and I thought Lindelof was a little lucky not to get a second booking. And United will be kicking themselves, in my opinion, that they didn't really take this nervous Spurs side and crowd to task.
To Craig's point, yes, Spurs, again, the criticism of Olsen early in the season, don't get started until they're 2 down. Saying that, given what we've seen from Spurs over recent weeks, Spurs fans are delighted that at least they show up at some point during the game. And in truth, I think they deserved the point out of the game. I thought it was a missed opportunity for Manchester United, given the start that they had, and then the second goal right before the break, Spurs get booed off, and this was a team ready to crumble. But in Spurs and Ryan Mason's credit, he makes a change on around the 70-minute mark. Richarlison comes off, Kulusevski comes on, and all of a sudden Spurs have a more familiar feel to them. Sit deep with a back 5, 4 just in front with the two wide men breaking, and they look a counter-attacking team. And Manchester United never really seemed to come to terms with that. And Spurs could have got more to the game, but at the same time, you could probably say the same for Manchester United. Because this is a Spurs team, certainly to start, you saw how solid they were lacking confidence. They were lacking any kind of shape, and maybe United should have taken a greater hold on the game. Had that Bruno Fernandes effort gone in, we're probably having a very different conversation now.
2 points dropped for United for you, Frank?
They lost 2 points because it's how they didn't win that game. It's still a question mark, for me, because they should have killed the game first half. Tottenham didn't exist. They were very psychologically fragile, and they should have taken that advantage to make sure they killed the game before halftime. It seems to be that they did it, like when they scored the second goal. But after that they got sloppy, and Tottenham came back, especially as you mentioned, when Kulusevski came on and Richarlison came out. And Richarlison really have to think through his performance, where he tried to find a fight with the ref, trying to find fouls everywhere. And we have to talk about the performance of Dyer. I mean, I don't understand. That guy is an international player. He's been much better than he is right now. What he did on Rashford, it's like open door, let's go, do whatever you want, crazy. But true, Manchester United lost a big opportunity to create the definite gap that they need to secure the Champions League spot.
But what about you, George? Do you think United should have won this one?
Yeah, 100%. I agree with everything the boys have said so far. I find it worrying, actually, the way United lose control of a game like this, where they've been so dominant, and the crowd was not really responsive. The Spurs players, you knew in the second half were going to try harder, and you would expect Ryan Mason at halftime to say, come on, we're 2-0 down now, we can't be embarrassed again like after the weekend. So let's do something, let's react. So if you're United and you're Ten Hag, you know exactly what's coming on in the second half. You know, we've seen this scenario so many times. The boys have probably played in games like that too. So you kind of know, and yet you don't seem prepared, and you concede that first goal. And yeah, of course, if Bruno scores what would have been an incredible individual goal, then at 3-1, it's game over. But he didn't score. And after that, you still let them come back again. And to be fair, they had the chances to score 3 or 4 in that second half, Spurs. So on that second half, if I was Ten Hag, I would be a bit worried.
Are you worried about their top 4 chances?
Not really. There's a bit of a gap, isn't there? Mm-hmm. I think this would have absolutely sealed it. They're not playing great. I mean, they played very well in the first half. Played well. Didn't play brilliantly against Brighton in the Cup. Were outplayed for long periods, but got the result. So yeah, coping with the injuries at the back. But I think as the game wore on, obviously Eriksen went off. He's missed some games recently, got tired. I think Casemiro starts to tire as well. But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty comfortable. 2 games in hand to Tottenham and Villa, 1 to Liverpool, and still a country mile ahead. But yeah, I don't see United not getting in the top 4, particularly if Marcus Rashford stays fit, and there's no reason that he can't. But from a Tottenham perspective, there are so many liabilities in that side, but Eric Dyer's one of the biggest. He's a big problem for them. He's so slow, he's so cumbersome, he's so lethargic, he's so heavy-legged. He makes too many mistakes now. You throw that in with the rash Romero and the not been playing well for a while, long way, and it's a problem. And somebody's going to have to get Oliver Skipp and Højbjerg and face them in the forward direction. There's just no, and I know Bentancur's out and 1 or 2 others, there's just no guile in there. And I heard them on the commentary say, well, they're going to have to bring a new manager in to try and convince Harry Kane to stay. I nearly spat my tea out. Convince him to stay? Why the hell would he stay at that? He's 30, he's going to be 30. He is 30, he's going to be 30. He's got just over a year left in his contract. They're a pile of crap, let's be honest about it. Why would he stay there? So, you know, Heung-min Son, he's not playing well. He missed a great chance before he scored his goal, which, by the way, his goal wasn't convincing. You know, and the cameras kept cutting to Daniel Levy. And Daniel Levy just looks as if he's watching a different movie. You know what I mean? He's just staring, sitting there staring, going, I have no clue what I'm doing, really. Hiring and firing. It's a bit of a shout. I mean, I get it. They came back and they made it 2-2. I get it. But how many times have we done that this season? There's no clear pathway going forward for Tottenham. So all this Harry Kane staying, I mean, get himself a decent agent and get the hell out of there.
I thought we've talked so much, Jules, about Harry Kane moving on, but he always seems to stay at Spurs. What's going to happen this summer?
I mean, surely him and his brother, Craig was just talking about his agent, which is his brother, can't make the mistake that they made 6 years ago now when they signed the extension that basically preventing from leaving earlier, that especially the summer where he wanted to go to Manchester City, when he agreed everything personally with City, but then City knew that Daniel Levy was not going to let go. So that long contract, and I remember the shows that we did that summer, we were saying, like, why on earth would you have signed that long-term deal at that time of your career? It was bonkers. Now with 1 year left on his contract, I mean, Spurs seems to be still confident that he can stay. I mean, again, we can't have the debate again whether he wants to be a legend at Spurs and stay all his career there or wants to go somewhere else and win trophies, because he's not going to win anything at Spurs in the near future. Maybe the FA Cup, okay, but that's not. If you're Harry Kane, the FA Cup is no good for you, really. So if he wants to win trophies, he knows he has to leave. If he waits until the end of his contract and wait until summer 2024, then he will leave on his terms. If he wants to leave this summer, good luck, whoever wants to negotiate with Daniel Levy and with Spurs, because that's not going to be easy. But again, until we hear from Harry himself saying, okay, this is what I want to do now, then we won't know. We can debate and we can wonder what he wants to do. But right now, he's still a Spurs player, and Spurs don't have to sell him this summer.
The Man United fans, did you hear what they were singing?
Yeah.
See you in June, Harry. We'll
see you in June.
We'll see you in June.
Would that be the best destination for him?
Well, he's not going to City. He's not going to go to Arsenal.
Bayern Munich.
Well, I think he said himself he wants to stay in England. I mean, I suppose Chelsea are a big club with big ambitions. It's just so, you look at Chelsea, if you're Harry Kane, you go, what's the direction they're going? Is this shambles going to continue? If you give me a choice, out of two clubs that could afford me and are looking for a striker in Chelsea and Man United, I'm going to Manchester, particularly at the moment. With a good manager, they've already won the Carabao Cup, they're probably going to be in the top four. They really shot themselves in the foot in the Europa League. That was their fault. Can you imagine him with Rashford coming off one of the wider positions? Because Sancho scored today but hasn't really done it. Anthony hasn't really done it. So those two are very inconsistent. So it would allow for Rashford and Kane to, when Kane drops deep, if he was playing for Man United, just throwing it out there, when he drops that little bit deeper, that space for Marcus Rashford to go from the left-hand side with the diagonal run would be perfect. I think it's a perfect destination for him now. Do United want him? I don't know. Are they willing to pay what Tottenham want? I mean, Jules, what would Tottenham want with 15 months or not even that left in his contract? What's a realistic valuation for a guy who is around 30 years old with 1 year left? What, 80 million? I mean, he can't be the 130, 140 million player anymore, can he?
No, you're right. I think between 80 and 100, if they get lucky, if there's a bit of a bidding war between United, as you mentioned, and maybe Chelsea, I don't really believe they will go there, but if Pochettino arrives, why not? And maybe a Bayern Munich and a PSG, and then suddenly the price can go from 80 to 100. But you're right, it's only 1 year left on his contract. He's 30. We've had already question mark over his ankles and his fitness, and this season, to be fair, has been great on that level. But in the past, he's had those moments where he was injured and missing a month there, 2 months there, etc. And at that age, you're not going to give him a 1 year deal as well. Whoever signs him for £80 million or 80 million euros, he would want at least a 4 year deal at 30 years old because he turned 30 in June. So, yeah, I would expect 80 and then that kind of contract. It's a big investment. Whoever going to try to sign him, it's a big investment. I think he's worth it because he's still an amazing player. But I think all of that has to be taken into consideration.
You're writing it off, aren't you?
What's that?
If you spend 80 million...
Oh, yeah.
I'm laughing because Frank is desperate to say something about this subject. Go on, Frank.
No, I just want to say that if he wants to stay in England, because I think personally Bayern Munich would be a very good target to go to if I was putting myself into Kane's boots. But if he wants to stay in England, and he's, as you said, like 10 times, he's 30 years old, why he would go to Chelsea, who's not going to play the Champions League next season, who, as Craig mentioned, is a real shamble and you don't know what's going to happen. So the only destination for me, because Alan is at Manchester City, is going to be Manchester United. And I think it's a very good opportunity for Kane to go somewhere where you can win something, because that's what it is. You can be the best player and one of the best strikers in the world and finishing your career with a blank sheet in your resume. That's not fair. That's not what football is about. Football is, of course, is about enjoying your game and being faithful maybe to a club. But at the end of the day, you're a professional player. You're there to win silverware. And And Kane deserves to get lines in his resume. So he has to go. And if it's Manchester United, it's a good opportunity for them to have him and for him to express himself and get those silverware that I was talking about.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.